Hey guys, tonight we journey into something invisible, something that lives only in sound and silence, and the space between breaths. Tonight we go back to the very first conversation. Not your first conversation, not mine, the first one ever. Before grammar, before syntax, before anyone knew what a sentence was. You open your mouth and something comes out that isn't quite a word. Not yet, just sound shaped by need. And the person across from you, they understand. Somehow they understand. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're here, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from tonight and what time is it there? Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up in a body that doesn't have language yet. Your mouth can make sounds, grunts, clicks, something like a hum that vibrates in your chest. But words, number, those haven't been invented. You're somewhere between ape and human. Your brain is bigger than your ancestors. You can think in ways they couldn't, but you can't say what you're thinking. Not really. You can only feel it. The frustration builds in your throat like pressure. You want to tell the others something about the water you found, about the thing you saw moving in the grass, about the fear that won't leave your chest. But how? You point. You gesture wildly. Your arms flail like branches in wind. The others watch. Some understand a little, others just stare. Communication is exhausting. Every idea requires your whole body. You crouch and scratch lines in the dirt. You make the sound of rushing water with your mouth. You point again at the horizon. One person nods, maybe they get it, maybe they're just being polite. You'll never know because there's no way to ask. There's no way to say, "Do you understand me?" There's no way to confirm anything. You live in a world of guesses and approximations and hope. Historians still argue about when true language emerged. Some say 2 million years ago with simple proto-words. Others claim it was much later, maybe 100,000 years ago when syntax developed. But what everyone agrees on is this. Before we had words, we had sounds. And those sounds meant something. You grunt low when danger is near. You click your tongue when you find food. You hum softly when someone is hurt and you want to comfort them. These aren't words, but they work. Sort of. The problem is nuance. You can't explain that the danger isn't here yet, but might come later. You can't say the food is good, but also a little bit rotten. You can't tell someone you're scared of dying, even though nothing is chasing you right now. The sounds are too blunt, too simple. Like trying to paint a sunset with only 2 colors. You feel the limitation constantly. It sits in your chest like a weight. There are thoughts in your head that have no shape, no sound, no way out. They just swirl and fade and leave you feeling strangely alone, even when surrounded by others. You watch a bird land on a branch. You want to tell someone it's beautiful, but you don't have beautiful. You don't have bird. You don't even have to look. So you grunt and point and hope they turn their head in time. They don't. The bird flies away. The moment is gone. You feel something close to sadness, but you can't name it. You can't share it. It just sits there inside you, heavy and silent. The days stretch out in wordless monotony. You wake, you forage, you eat, you sleep. Sometimes you sit and stare at the sky and feel things you have no names for. Wonder, maybe, loneliness, joy. But without words, these feelings have no handles. You can't pick them up, can't examine them, can't share them. They just wash over you like waves and recede, leaving nothing but a vague ache. You try to connect with the others. You really do. You sit close to them. You share your food. You groom their hair, picking out insects and debris. Physical touch helps. It's a kind of communication, but it's limited. You can say I care through grooming. You can say I'm here through presence. But you can't say I'm afraid of the dark, or I dreamed about my mother, or I wonder what happens when we die. You notice one member of the group seems different. They make more sounds than others, more varied sounds. They seem to be experimenting, trying new combinations, testing what works. You watch them carefully. One day they approach you holding a piece of fruit. They make a sound, a specific sound. Then they gesture at the fruit. Then they make the sound again. They're teaching you. This sound means this thing. You try to repeat it. Your mouth struggles with the shape, but you manage something close. They smile. They hand you the fruit. You've just learned your second word, and in that moment, something shifts. You realize language isn't just sounds. It's shared agreement. It's two minds deciding that this noise will mean this thing. It's collaboration. It's trust. Quirky fact. Some researchers believe early humans may have used singing or rhythmic chanting before spoken language. Not songs with lyrics, just melodic sounds that helped groups bond and coordinate. Think of it as humanity's first mixtape. No words, just vibes. You try it sometimes, you hum a pattern. Others join in, the rhythm syncs. For a moment, you feel connected. Not through meaning, but through sound itself. It's primal and pure. Your heartbeats align, your breathing matches. Your separate bodies moving as one. The humming fills the space where words should be. It says, "We're together. We're safe. We're alive." Then someone coughs and the moment breaks. You're all back to grunting and pointing and hoping someone somewhere understands what you're trying to say. The days blur together. You forage. You sleep. You wake. You try to communicate and mostly fail. But something is changing. Slowly, so slowly you barely notice. The grunts are becoming more specific, more consistent. When you see water, you make the same sound every time. Not just any sound, the same exact sound. When danger approaches, a different sound, always the same one. These sounds start to stick. Others use them. They expect them. If you make the water sound but there's no water, they look confused, angry even. The sounds are becoming reliable. They're becoming symbols. They're becoming the very first words. You don't know you're making history. You're just trying to survive, trying to coordinate, trying to tell the young ones which plants are safe and which will make them sick, trying to warn about predators, trying to share the location of food. But in doing so, you're building something larger than yourself. You're building language, one grunt at a time, one sound at a time, one desperately needed symbol at a time. The first breakthrough happens by accident. Someone makes a sound, a specific sound, and they make it again when they see the same thing. A particular bird maybe. Every time that bird appears, they make that sound. Caw, caw. Eventually, others start to connect the dots. That sound means that bird, not just similar birds, that specific type. It's not sophisticated, it's barely language, but it's a start. You try it yourself. You make a sound for water, a different sound for fire, another for run, another for stop, another for come, another for stay, another for help, another for food. The sounds stick. People use them. Suddenly communication gets a little bit easier. Not easy, just less impossible. You can point at nothing and make the water sound, and people understand you mean water, not the water right here. Just water in general, water as an idea, water as a concept, independent of any specific puddle or stream. This is huge. This is abstract thought made audible. This is the beginning of everything. But here's where it gets interesting. You start combining sounds. Water plus run. Does that mean the water is flowing? Or should we run to the water or run away from the water because something dangerous is there? Nobody knows. The combination is ambiguous, open to interpretation. You argue about it, not with words because you still don't have enough. You argue with gestures and grunts and frustration. One person thinks you mean one thing, another disagrees. Someone throws a rock. Not at you, just near you. a warning. Communication, it turns out, is complicated. More complicated than anyone imagined, because it's not just about making sounds, it's about shared understanding, about context, about agreement on what sounds mean. The group gathers to resolve disputes. Someone makes a sound combination. Others debate what it means. Eventually, through trial and error and occasional violence, consensus emerges. Water plus run means run to the water. If you want to say run from the water, you use a different combination. Water plus danger plus run. 3 sounds. More specific, less ambiguous. You're inventing grammar without knowing it. You're creating rules for how sounds can combine, how meaning can be built from pieces. It's slow, it's messy, it takes generations, but it's happening. One evening, something remarkable occurs. A child, no more than 3 or 4 years old, strings together 4 sounds in a row, sounds they've heard separately but never combined. They point at a distant hill where the sun is setting and they say in their primitive proto-language, "Water there, sun fall." Everyone stops, stares. The child has just created the first complex sentence. They've described something that isn't happening right now, something that happened earlier. They've referenced a location. They've used relative positioning. They've demonstrated that they understand water exists even when they can't see it. The adults look at each other. Something has changed. The children are learning faster than the adults invented. Language is starting to grow on its own. You're sitting by a fire now. The flames crackle and spit. Around you, a small group, maybe 10 people, maybe fewer. You've been traveling together for weeks. You know their sounds, their rhythms. You can predict what grunt means what. You know that the tall one grunts differently when he's tired versus when he's angry. You know that the young one clicks her tongue when she's happy. You're learning not just language, but people, how they use language, what they mean beyond the sounds. But tonight, something shifts, something changes. Someone tells a story. Not with words, they don't have those yet, but with sounds and gestures and facial expressions that stretch and twist. They're describing a hunt. You can tell by the way they crouch and spring and mime the throw of a spear. They make the sound of a wounded animal, low and pained, guttural. Then they make a sound of triumph, high and sharp. The group leans in. You lean in. You're not just hearing sounds anymore. You're seeing images in your mind, the hunt, the animal, the chase, the throw, the moment of victory. This is new. This is different. You've just experienced the first story, and even though it has no words, it has meaning. It has structure, beginning, middle, end, tension and release. You feel something stir in your chest, not hunger, not fear, something else. Connection maybe. Or awe, a sense that something important just happened. You don't have a word for it yet, but you feel it, deep in your bones. The storyteller finishes. There's a moment of silence, heavy and full. Then someone else makes a sound of approval, a sound that means good. Others join in. The storyteller looks pleased. They've done something valuable, not provided food or safety, but something equally important. They've given the group a shared experience, a shared memory, even though half of them weren't there, even though it happened yesterday to someone else. Through story, through performance, through the careful arrangement of sounds and gestures, they've made the past present. They've made the individual collective. The storyteller starts to embellish. They add details that weren't there before. They make the animal bigger, fiercer. They make the danger greater. They make the triumph more dramatic. And nobody corrects them because the story isn't really about facts anymore. It's about feeling. It's about sharing an emotional experience. It's about making everyone feel brave and capable and part of something. You realize that stories don't have to be true to be important. They just have to mean something. Quirky fact. Cave paintings from 30,000 years ago suggest early humans were already thinking symbolically. They could represent one thing with another. A drawing of a buffalo meant buffalo. That ability to let one thing stand for another is the foundation of language. Without it, words are just noise. The group starts to develop more sounds, not just for objects, but for actions, for emotions. A low rumble means anger. A soft coo means affection. A sharp hiss means stop. A rising whine means help. A falling moan means sadness. A quick repetitive click means happiness or excitement. You practice these sounds. You teach them to the young ones who watch you with wide eyes and try to mimic the shapes your mouth makes. Sometimes they get it wrong. They hiss when they mean to coo. Everyone laughs, not cruelly, just warmly, because mistakes are part of learning. And learning, it turns out, is what humans do best. The children try again and again. Their mouths are flexible. Their brains are sponges. They pick up sounds faster than the adults. Sometimes they even invent new ones. A sound for play, a sound for tired, a sound for more, a sound for mine. The adults adopt these sounds. Language is becoming collaborative. Collective. It belongs to everyone and no one. You start to notice patterns. Certain sounds often come before other sounds. When someone says the sound for danger, they usually follow it with a direction. Danger plus there. Danger plus run. Danger plus hide. Danger plus big. Danger plus fast. The combinations start to feel natural, almost automatic. Your brain is wiring itself for grammar, even though grammar doesn't exist yet. You're creating templates, structures, frameworks for how meaning can be assembled. Historians still argue whether grammar was invented or discovered. Did humans create the rules of language, or did we stumble upon patterns that were always there, buried in the structure of thought itself? You don't care about the philosophy. You just know that communication is getting easier. You can express more. You can be understood more. The frustration in your chest loosens just a little, but there's still so much you can't say. You can't explain why you feel sad when the sun sets. You can't describe the dream you had last night where you were flying. You can't tell someone you miss them when they're gone. Those concepts are too abstract, too layered, too tangled up in feelings that have no shape. You try anyway. You point at the sunset and make a low sound and touch your chest. The person across from you tilts their head. They don't understand. You try again. You point at them, then at the horizon where the sun disappeared, then back at your chest where your heart is beating. They squint. They think. Then slowly, hesitantly, they nod. Maybe they get it. Maybe they understand that you're trying to say the sunset makes you feel the way you feel about them. Or maybe they're just being kind, pretending to understand so you don't feel so alone. Either way, it's enough. You tried, you reached across the silence, and someone reached back. Even if they didn't quite grasp what you meant, they acknowledged the effort. They met you halfway, and that, in this wordless world, is everything. Time passes, generations pass, the sounds multiply, they become more specific, more flexible, more nuanced. Someone figures out how to modify a sound to change its meaning. A rising tone means question, a falling tone means statement, a sharp cutoff means urgency. A drawn-out sound means uncertainty. Suddenly, you can ask things. Where is the water? Who took the meat? Why did you leave? When will you return? Questions open up the world. They let you probe. They let you learn. They let you peek inside someone else's mind and see what they know that you don't. And with learning comes change. You're no longer just surviving. You're thinking, planning, imagining futures that don't exist yet. One day, someone makes a sound that doesn't refer to anything real, anything concrete. They make a sound for maybe, for later, for if. These words, these proto-words, they don't point at objects. They point at possibilities, at time itself, at conditionality, at the space between what is and what could be. Your brain nearly explodes trying to grasp it. If I go there, then maybe I find food. If I stay here, then maybe I die. The word if just changed everything. You can now think about choices before making them. You can weigh options. You can plan. You can strategize. You can regret. You can hope. You can fear things that haven't happened yet. You can prepare for futures that might never arrive. Language has just unlocked time travel, not physical time travel, mental time travel. You can visit the past in your mind, replay conversations, relive moments, learn from mistakes, and you can rehearse the future, imagine scenarios, prepare responses, anticipate outcomes. You can think about your death even though you're alive. You can worry about tomorrow even though today is fine. This is both a gift and a curse, all because someone invented a sound for maybe, all because language evolved beyond the immediate and concrete into the realm of the hypothetical and abstract. Quirky fact: modern linguists believe that recursion, the ability to embed ideas within ideas, is what separates human language from animal communication. A bird can say danger. A human can say, I think there might be danger near the place where we found water yesterday, unless the predators have moved, in which case we should go to the other water source that the tall one mentioned 3 days ago. That's recursion. That's the magic. That's what lets us build cathedrals of meaning from simple building blocks of sound. You practice it clumsily. You stack sounds on top of sounds. Sometimes it works, sometimes it collapses into nonsense and everyone looks at you confused, but you keep trying. Because deep down, beneath the grunts and gestures, you know something important is happening. You're building a bridge made of sound, a bridge that connects one mind to another, and that bridge, once built, will change everything. The first arguments happen, real arguments, not just grunting and shoving. You can now disagree with nuance. You say one thing, someone else says another. You both use sounds and combinations and rhythms. You debate, not about facts. Facts are easy. You debate about interpretations, about what should happen, about what's fair, about who should lead and who should follow and who gets the biggest share of meat. These arguments are exhausting. They last for hours. People get heated, voices rise, but they're also thrilling because you're not just communicating anymore. You're thinking together. You're building ideas collectively. One person says something, another adds to it. A third disagrees. A fourth finds a middle ground. A fifth suggests something no one had considered. This is collaboration. This is culture. This is the beginning of everything. Ideas that no single mind could have produced alone emerge from the collective. Solutions that weren't obvious become clear through discussion. Language has made you smarter, not individually, collectively. The group is now more intelligent than the sum of its parts, but language also divides. Your group has sounds. Another group a day's walk away has different sounds. When you meet them, you can't communicate. You point and gesture like you did before language existed. It's frustrating, almost insulting. You have this incredible tool and it doesn't work with them. You make your sound for water. They stare blankly. They make their sound for water. It means nothing to you. You're both using language, but you might as well be from different planets. Some people in your group suggest learning their sounds, others refuse. Why should we change? Let them learn ours. Our sounds are better. Our sounds make more sense. Tension builds, not because of resources or territory, because of pride. Because language isn't just communication anymore, it's identity, it's belonging, it's us versus them, it's a marker of who's in and who's out. Language, the tool that was supposed to connect, has become a wall. You try to learn a few of their sounds. It's hard. harder than you expected. Your mouth doesn't want to make those shapes. Your tongue keeps reaching for familiar positions. Your brain keeps trying to map their sounds onto yours. But they're not the same. They're not even close. But slowly, painfully, you manage a few. Water, fire, friend, peace. The other group seems surprised, then pleased. One of them tries to learn your sounds. They butcher the pronunciation. The consonants come out wrong. The tone is off. But they're trying. You smile. They smile back. In that moment, you realize something profound. Language can divide, but it can also heal. It just depends on who's willing to try, who's willing to stretch their mouth into unfamiliar shapes, who's willing to listen instead of just waiting to speak, who's willing to meet halfway, who's willing to be vulnerable and make mistakes and look foolish in pursuit of connection. Years pass, decades, centuries. Your sounds become more complex. Sentences form, real sentences with subjects and verbs and objects. You can tell elaborate stories now. You can describe things that happened years ago in places far away to people who are dead. You can plan harvest seasons in advance. You can warn children about dangers they've never seen based on experiences they've never had. You can pass down wisdom from the old to the young. Knowledge accumulates. Each generation learns what the previous one discovered and builds on it. This wouldn't be possible without language. Without the ability to say, I tried that and it didn't work, or I noticed that when the moon looks like this, the rains come soon, or my grandfather told me that his grandfather said the winter 3 lifetimes ago was the worst anyone remembered. Language has become a repository, a library, a collective memory that transcends individual lifetimes. And you can lie. That's new and disturbing. Someone says they saw something they didn't see. They describe it in detail. Colours, sounds, movements, everyone believes them. Why wouldn't they? Language up until now has been mostly trustworthy. If someone says water, there's water. If someone says danger, there's danger. But now someone has discovered that you can use language to create realities that don't exist, to manipulate, to deceive, to gain advantage, until someone else contradicts the story. They say they were there. They say it didn't happen that way. Now you have a problem. 2 people, 2 stories, both told with the same conviction, both using the same language. But they can't both be true. Now you need a new concept, truth. How do you know what's true? How do you know what's real? Who do you believe? The person you trust more, the person who tells the story more convincingly, the person who has lied less in the past. Language has opened a door, but behind that door is uncertainty. You can no longer trust everything you hear. You have to evaluate, to question, to verify, to corroborate. This is exhausting but necessary. Welcome to the information age, prehistoric edition. You gather around the fire again. Someone is telling a story, a new kind of story. Not about something that happened, about something that didn't happen. A story about a creature that doesn't exist. A monster with many heads, a spirit that lives in the river, a god that controls the rain. The group listens, transfixed. You listen too. Part of you knows it's not real. The rational part, the part that's never seen such things. But another part doesn't care. The story is good, it's compelling, it makes you feel something. Fear maybe, or wonder, or reverence. This is fiction, the first fiction, and with it comes a new way of thinking. You can now imagine things that aren't. You can create meaning where none exists. You can build worlds in your mind and share them with others. Those worlds become sacred. They become ritual, they become religion, they become the stories you tell to explain why the sun rises and where people go when they die and what you're supposed to do when you feel lost, all because someone learned to make sounds that pointed at nothing and everything at once. Quirky fact: storytelling may have evolved as a way to teach survival skills without risking actual danger. Instead of learning that fire burns by getting burned, you hear a story about someone who got burned. You learn the lesson without the pain. Stories are simulations. Safe ways to explore dangerous ideas. Safe ways to experience death and loss and tragedy without actually dying or losing or suffering. You start telling your own stories. Some are warnings. Don't go near the cliff edge. A child did once and fell. Some are celebrations. Remember the great hunt when we brought down the mammoth. Some are explanations. The thunder is the sky gods fighting. Some are just for fun. Once there was a rabbit who thought he was a bear. The group develops favorites. Certain stories get told again and again. They change slightly each time. Details shift. Characters grow. New elements get added. Old ones fall away. But the core remains. These stories become shared knowledge, shared culture, shared mythology. They bind you together, not through blood or territory, through narrative, through meaning, through collective imagination. You all know the same stories, you all reference the same characters, you all understand the same metaphors. Language has created culture, and culture has created identity, but storytelling also creates hierarchies. Some people are better at it than others. They hold attention longer. They modulate their voice more effectively. They pause at the right moments. They make people laugh or cry or gasp. These storytellers gain status, influence, power. People listen to them, not because they're stronger or faster, because they're interesting, because they can shape reality with sound, because they can make people feel things. You watch this happen with mixed feelings. On one hand, it's beautiful. Language has created art, created entertainment, created a reason to gather beyond mere survival. On the other, it's dangerous, because if someone can shape reality with words, they can also twist it, they can manipulate, they can control, they can convince people of things that aren't true, they can turn the group against individuals, they can consolidate power through narrative alone. You're older now, your hair is thin, your teeth are mostly gone, your joints ache in the morning, but your mind is sharp, sharper maybe than ever. You've spent a lifetime swimming in language. You've seen it grow from simple grunts to complex sentences, from gestures to grammar, from sounds to stories, from communication to art. And now, near the end, you understand something you couldn't have understood at the beginning. Language isn't just a tool, it's a world you live inside. Every word is a room, every sentence a hallway, every story a journey. You've been building this world your whole life, and so has everyone around you. Together, you've constructed something invisible but real, a shared space made of meaning. One day, a child asks you a question. How did we learn to talk? You pause. You don't have a perfect answer. You weren't there at the very beginning. Nobody alive was. But you remember the early days, when language was new, when every word felt like a miracle, when being understood for the first time felt like magic, the frustration, the breakthroughs, the arguments, the stories you try to explain. You use words the child understands, simple words, direct words. You tell them that talking is like building a bridge, one sound at a time, one idea at a time, one connection at a time, until you can walk from your mind into someone else's, until you can share what's inside, until you can be less alone. The child nods. They seem satisfied. They turn to go, but then they stop. They turn back. They ask another question. Why do we talk? This one is harder, much harder. You think for a long time. The fire crackles. The wind moves through the trees. Finally you say, because we're alone without it. Because talking is how we touch each other when hands aren't enough. Because words are the only way to share what's inside. Because without language, we're trapped. Each of us locked in our own mind, our own experience, but with language, we can escape. We can reach out. We can connect. We can build something together that's bigger than any of us alone. The child looks at you with wide eyes. They don't fully understand. How could they? They've never known a world without language. They've never felt that desperate isolation of having thoughts with no way to express them. But they will, someday, when they have an experience so profound or painful or beautiful that no words seem adequate. They'll feel the limitation, the gap between what's inside and what can be said, and maybe they'll think of you, of this conversation, and they'll understand. You lie down that night under a sky full of stars. Around you, the sounds of the group, breathing, snoring, the crackle of embers, someone muttering in their sleep. You close your eyes, and in your mind, you hear it. Every word you've ever learned, every sentence you've ever spoken, every story you've ever told or heard, they swirl together like a river, a vast rushing river of meaning, and you realize with sudden clarity that this river doesn't end with you. It flows forward. Into the child, into their children, into countless generations you'll never meet. You've given them something, not tools or food or shelter, but something more lasting, something more powerful. You've given them a way to be less alone, a way to reach across the silence, a way to say, I am here. I see you, I understand, I feel what you feel, I know what you know, and that more than anything is what it means to talk. Time moves forward. Language grows. People develop writing. They trap words on surfaces, scratches in clay, marks on papyrus, chisels in stone. Now sounds can outlive the person who made them. The dead can speak. You're not alive to see this, but you set it in motion. Every word you learned, every sound you practiced, every story you told, they were threads, and those threads became a rope, and that rope became a bridge, and that bridge spans time itself. Centuries pass, millennia. Languages split and merge and evolve. Proto-Indo-European becomes Latin and Greek and Sanskrit. Latin becomes Italian and French and Spanish and Portuguese and Romanian. Germanic tongues spread across continents, becoming English and German and Dutch and Swedish and Norwegian and Danish. New words are born every day. Old words die. Meanings shift. Grammar changes. But the core remains. The human need to connect, to share, to understand and be understood. Every language carries the echo of those first sounds, those first attempts, those first desperate reaches across the silence. Every conversation, no matter how complex or casual, rests on that ancient foundation. Someone trying to tell someone else something true. You're in a monastery now. It's the Middle Ages, stone walls, cold floors, the smell of ink and parchment. You're a scribe. Your job is to copy books by hand, letter by letter, word by word, page by page. Your fingers ache. Your eyes water from staring at tiny script in dim candlelight. The ink stains everything. Your robes, your skin, under your fingernails, but you're doing something sacred. You're preserving language. You're keeping it alive. You're making sure that words written by people long dead will be read by people not yet born. The abbot walks by. He pauses, looks at your work, grunts approval. You feel pride, not because the work is easy, it's brutally hard, it's tedious and painful and endless. Your back aches from hunching, your hand cramps from gripping the quill, but it matters. These words will outlive you. They'll travel to places you'll never see. They'll be read by people who speak languages that don't exist yet. You dip your quill again. The scratch of pen on parchment is the only sound. Outside, the world is changing. Languages are colliding. Trade routes bring new words, Arabic numerals, Chinese silk, Indian spices, and with the goods come words. Words that describe things you've never seen, concepts you've never considered. Invasions force languages to blend. English absorbs French after the Norman conquest. Suddenly you have two words for everything: cow and beef, pig and pork, sheep and mutton. The peasant word and the noble word, the Anglo-Saxon and the French. Arabic influences Spanish during the Moorish occupation, algebra, algorithm, alcohol, alchemy, admiral. Words migrate like birds. They adapt, they survive, they change to fit new mouths and new needs. Some die out completely. Entire languages vanish when the last speaker dies. You hear about a village where an old woman speaks a tongue no one else remembers. When she dies, centuries of stories and songs and prayers die with her. The thought haunts you. Language feels precious and fragile, a flame that must be tended or it goes out. Others thrive in new soil. English picks up words from everywhere: bazaar from Persian, ketchup from Chinese, alcohol from Arabic, chocolate from Nahuatl, typhoon from Chinese, jungle from Hindi. The language becomes a melting pot, a hybrid, a constantly evolving organism that refuses to stay pure, that absorbs and adapts and grows. You finish copying a page. It's a story, an old one, about a hero and a monster, Beowulf and Grendel. You've read it a dozen times, but it still moves you. The hero is afraid, but fights anyway. The monster is terrible, but somehow pitiable, lonely, outcast, rejected. Language has done this, made you care about things that never existed, made you feel for creatures of pure imagination, made you question who the real monster is. Quirky fact: the printing press, invented around 1440, changed everything. Suddenly, books could be mass-produced. Ideas could spread like wildfire. A pamphlet printed in Germany could be in France within weeks, in England within months. Language became democratic. Anyone who could read had access to knowledge. Of course, most people couldn't read, but that would change too. Literacy rates climbed slowly, then faster. Schools opened, first for the wealthy, then for everyone. Language stopped being the domain of monks and nobles. It became everyone's tool, everyone's right, everyone's inheritance. You're in a classroom now. It's the 1800s. You're a child, poor. Your hands are dirty from helping in the fields before school. Your clothes are patched and frayed. Your stomach growls. You're learning to read and write. The letters make no sense at first, just shapes, arbitrary marks on a slate. But the teacher is patient. She shows you again and again. C-A-T, cat. You say it out loud. The teacher smiles. Something clicks in your brain. Those marks mean sounds. Those sounds mean things. You've just unlocked a door. Behind that door are infinite worlds. Every book, every poem, every letter ever written, all accessible to you now. You practice obsessively. You read everything. Newspapers left on benches, novels borrowed from the library, signs on shops, the backs of cereal boxes, advertisements, pamphlets, everything. You write too, clumsy at first, your letters wobbly and uneven, your spelling creative, then better. You keep a diary. You write about your day, about your feelings, about things you'd never say out loud. The diary becomes a friend, a silent listener who never judges, never interrupts, never misunderstands. You realize something strange. Writing lets you talk to yourself. It lets you organize your thoughts, pin them down, examine them from different angles. Before writing, thoughts were like smoke. They appeared and vanished. Now they're solid, permanent. You can return to them days or years later, see how you've changed, see what you once believed that you no longer do, revise them, develop them. Language has given you not just communication, but introspection. You're in a city now. It's the early 1900s, factories and automobiles and electric lights. The world is speeding up. Telephones are everywhere. You pick one up, dial a number, wait. The line crackles and pops. Someone answers. Their voice is thin and distant but recognizable. They're miles away, but they sound close, intimate, like they're whispering in your ear. You talk for an hour, about nothing, about everything, about the weather and your health and whether you'll visit next month. When you hang up, you feel strange, connected but also lonely. Their voice was there, but they weren't. You couldn't see their face, couldn't read their body language, couldn't touch them. Language has become disembodied, floating free of faces and bodies and presence. You're not sure if this is progress or loss, maybe both. Radio arrives. Now voices can reach millions. A president speaks and the whole nation hears simultaneously. Everyone gathered around their sets, listening, unified. A singer croons and teenagers swoon in distant bedrooms. A demagogue rants and people march in the streets. Language is no longer local, no longer limited by distance or geography. It's broadcast, amplified, weaponized. Propagandists use it to sway crowds, to manufacture consent, to create enemies out of neighbors, to convince people that war is necessary, that certain groups are dangerous, that sacrifice is noble. Poets use it to comfort the broken, to name the unnameable, to say what everyone feels but nobody can express, to remind people that beauty still exists, that tenderness matters, that we're not alone, the same tool, the same words, different intentions, different effects. You listen to the radio every night, sometimes for news, sometimes for music, sometimes for radio plays, stories told entirely through sound, no images, just voices and sound effects and your imagination filling in the rest. You see the characters in your mind, the settings, the drama. It's intimate in a way that surprises you. Sometimes you listen just for the company. The voices keep you from feeling alone, even though you are, even though the voices are coming from far away and don't know you exist. Still, they fill the silence. They make the room feel less empty. They remind you that somewhere people are still talking, still trying, still reaching across the distance. You're in front of a screen now. It's the late 1900s. A computer, bulky and beige and humming. You're typing. Not on a typewriter where mistakes are permanent and messy. On a computer where everything is fluid, changeable, deletable. The words appear instantly. Clean, perfect. You can delete mistakes with a keystroke. Rearrange sentences, try different phrasings. The computer doesn't care if you misspell. It just waits, patient, infinite, ready for whatever you want to say. You join a chat room, strangers from around the world gathered in a virtual space. You talk about movies, about politics, about shared interests. You've never seen their faces. You never will. But in this moment, you're connected. Language has become digital. Weightless, instant, borderless. You can talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime. Someone in Japan, someone in Brazil, someone in Norway, all at once, all in real time. Distance has collapsed. Time zones barely matter. The whole world is accessible through language, and yet somehow conversations feel shorter, shallower, less meaningful. Everyone's talking, but nobody's really saying anything. The depth has been sacrificed for breadth. The quality for quantity. Email replaces letters, text messages replace phone calls, everything speeds up. Language becomes abbreviated LOL, BRB, OMG, U instead of U, R instead of R. Whole sentences condensed into acronyms. You're not sure if this is evolution or degradation. Words are losing letters. Sentences are losing structure. Grammar is becoming optional, but communication is faster than ever, more efficient. Is that better? You're not sure. You miss the weight of a handwritten letter, the anticipation of waiting for a response, days or weeks of wondering what they'll say, the care someone took to choose their words, the permanence of ink on paper. The physical object you could hold and reread and treasure. Now everything is instant, and somehow that makes it feel less real, less valuable. If words come so easily, if they're so quick to produce and consume, do they mean as much? You're scrolling now. It's the 2000s. Social media has arrived. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Everyone has a platform. Everyone has a voice. Everyone has an audience. You post a thought. Within seconds, responses flood in. Some agree. Some attack. Some misunderstand completely. You try to clarify. It makes things worse. You realize something troubling. Language works best in context, with tone, with body language, with shared understanding. Strip all that away and words become weapons. Misunderstandings multiply, nuance disappears. You see it everywhere. People talking past each other, screaming into voids, building echo chambers where everyone agrees and dissent is blocked. Language, the tool that was supposed to connect us, is being used to divide, to tribalize, to other. You watch arguments spiral out of control. Someone makes a joke. Someone else takes it seriously. Feelings are hurt. Apologies are demanded. Apologies are given but deemed insufficient. The pile-on begins. Hundreds of people weighing in. Most don't know the full context. They just see a fragment, a screenshot, a quote taken out of context. But that doesn't stop them from having opinions. Strong opinions. Violent opinions. You remember the monastery. The scribe carefully copying each letter. The weight of permanence. The reverence for language. Each word mattered because words were scarce. They took time. They took effort. They took thought. Now everyone types without thinking, posts without rereading, speaks without considering. The flood of words has made each individual word less valuable. You're tired. Not physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You've spent all day reading messages, posts, comments, articles, threads, hot takes, think pieces, reactions to reactions. So many opinions, everyone talking, nobody listening, nobody really listening. You close the app, put down your phone, sit in silence. It feels strange at first, uncomfortable. Your brain keeps reaching for noise, for stimulation, for more words, for more input, for more information. But you resist. You just sit and breathe, and slowly the silence becomes peaceful. You realize you've been drowning in language, swimming in an ocean of words with no shore in sight. You needed this quiet, this break from the endless conversation. This moment where you're not consuming or producing language, just existing. Quirky fact: the average person now consumes about 34 gigabytes of information per day. That's roughly 100,000 words. We're reading more than ever, but comprehending less, retaining even less. We're skimming, scanning, scrolling. Language has become fast food, consumed quickly, forgotten immediately. No nutritional value, just empty calories, just noise. You think about those first humans struggling to make a single sound mean something, fighting to be understood, aching to connect. They would be baffled by this, by the abundance, by the waste, by how casually we throw words around, how little we value them, how we use thousands of words to say nothing. You make a decision, you'll be more careful, more intentional, you'll speak less but mean more, you'll listen better, really listen, not just wait for your turn to talk, not just formulate your response while the other person is still speaking. Actually listen, actually hear, actually try to understand. You'll treat words like what they are: precious, powerful, the only bridge we have between minds, the only way to truly touch someone without touching them. You meet a friend for coffee, real coffee, in person, face to face. You put your phone away, not just face down, away, in your bag, out of sight. You look at them, really look. Make eye contact. Notice they look tired. Notice the tension in their shoulders. Notice they're fidgeting with their cup. They're talking about their day, about something that upset them, a conflict at work, a misunderstanding with a partner, a fear they can't shake. You don't interrupt, don't offer solutions, don't say, "That happened to me once," and turn the conversation to yourself. You just listen. When they finish, there's a pause, silence, comfortable silence. Then they say, "Thank you, just for listening." You realize how rare that's become. How often conversations are just two people waiting to talk, two monologues taking turns, not connecting, just transmitting, just broadcasting, not dialogue, just parallel monologues. You ask a question, a real one, not rhetorical, not leading, just curious, genuinely curious. How did that make you feel? Their face changes, softens, their eyes get wet. They lean forward. They tell you something true, something vulnerable, something they haven't told anyone else, about fear, about shame, about loneliness, about the gap between who they are and who they pretend to be. You feel it, that ancient connection, mind to mind, heart to heart, through nothing but words and presence and the willingness to be honest. This is what language was meant for, not debates where someone wins and someone loses, not arguments where the goal is to be right, not broadcasting where you speak to thousands but connect with none, but this, intimate understanding, shared humanity, the simple, profound act of two people really seeing each other, really hearing each other, really being present with each other. The coffee goes cold, neither of you notice. You talk for hours about everything, about nothing, about childhood memories and future fears, and the strange feeling of being alive in this particular moment in history. When you finally leave, you feel full. Not from the coffee, from the conversation, from being truly heard and truly hearing someone else. You walk home in the dark, the city hums around you, thousands of people, millions of words being spoken right now, but you're not overwhelmed anymore. You're not drowning anymore. You're grateful for the gift, for the bridge, for the fact that we figured out how to reach each other across the silence, for the fact that despite everything, despite the noise and the chaos and the misunderstandings, we're still trying, still reaching, still opening our mouths and hoping someone understands. You think about the long journey from grunts to grammar, from cave paintings to text messages, from silence to this endless roaring ocean of language, from the first sound to the billions spoken every second, and you realize it's all the same desperate human need to not be alone, to be understood, to matter, to mean something to someone. Every word ever spoken is just another attempt, another reaching, another prayer into the void saying, "I'm here, can you hear me? Do I matter? Does anyone care what I think or feel or fear or hope?" And when someone answers, when they really answer, that's everything. That's the whole point. Not information, not persuasion, not winning or being right or getting likes. Just connection, just the simple, profound miracle of one mind touching another, of one heart recognizing another, of two people, separate and alone in their own skulls, finding a way to reach across the space between and touch. You're home now. You sit at your desk, pick up a pen. Not a keyboard, a pen. Physical, analog, permanent. You start to write. Not a text, not an email, not a post, a letter to someone you love, someone you haven't spoken to in too long. You take your time, choose each word carefully, cross out sentences that aren't quite right. Rewrite them. Make them true. Make them real. Make them worthy of the person who will receive them. When you finish, you fold it. Put it in an envelope. Address it by hand. Add a stamp. The old way. The slow way. The way that says this mattered enough to take time. The way that says you're worth the effort. You'll mail it tomorrow, and in a few days, someone will hold it. Will see your handwriting. Will feel the weight of paper. Will know that you thought of them. that you cared enough to say it carefully. Language made permanent, made tangible, made sacred, made love. You lie down that night. The room is dark, the world is quiet. You close your eyes and you hear it again. That river, that endless river of words flowing through time, from those first grunts to this moment, from the first story around a fire to every conversation happening right now, millions of bridges being built, some successfully, some collapsing midway, but all of them attempts, all of them evidence that we haven't given up, that we're still trying to reach each other. And you understand finally, deeply, completely, that this is what makes us human, not our brains, not our tools, not our cities or technologies or achievements, but this endless effort to connect, to communicate, to say, I'm here and here I am and I see you and I understand. This willingness to open our mouths and hope that the sounds we make will land in someone else's ears and mean something. Anything. This refusal to accept the silence, this insistence on reaching across the void even when it seems impossible. Language is imperfect. It fails constantly. Misunderstandings are the rule, not the exception. But we keep trying. We keep talking. We keep hoping that this time, maybe this time, we'll truly be understood. And sometimes we are. And those moments, those brief, perfect moments of true connection, they make everything worth it. They make all the failed attempts and awkward conversations and brutal arguments worth it. Because for one shining moment, you're not alone. You're seen. You're heard. You're understood. So now, as this journey fades and the long road through language settles into quiet, let's pause. Let's breathe. You've travelled from grunts to grammar, from gestures to stories, from the first sound to the billions of words spoken every day, from isolation to connection, from silence to symphony. You've felt the frustration of having no words, the joy of being understood, the power of stories, the weight of meaning, the danger of lies, the comfort of truth, the pain of miscommunication, the ecstasy of true connection. And through it all, you talked, you listened, you reached, because that's what we do. That's what we've always done. That's what we'll keep doing until the last human takes their last breath and the last word fades into silence. We open our mouths. We shape the air. We hope someone hears. And when they do, when they really hear us, when they understand not just our words, but our meaning, our intent, our heart, that's everything. That's the whole point. Not survival, not dominance, not progress, just connection, just the simple, profound act of saying, I'm here, are you there, can you hear me, and waiting, hoping, praying for the answer. Yes, I hear you, I'm here too, I understand, you're not alone. Let the words fade now, let the sounds drift away, let the river flow on without you for a while. Let your mind rest. You've earned it. You've spent a lifetime talking, listening, reaching, trying. And that ancient voice that started it all, that first human who made the first meaningful sound, they're proud of you because you kept the bridge standing, you kept the conversation going, you kept trying even when it was hard. You proved that even across millions of years and billions of voices and countless misunderstandings, we're still trying to say the same thing. We're still trying to say, you're not alone. I see you. I hear you. You matter. Your words matter. Your story matters. Your voice, unique among billions, matters. And in a world of noise, of endless chatter, of words without meaning, that might be the most important thing we can say. So say it when it counts. Say it carefully. Say it true. Say it like those first humans who fought so hard just to make a single sound mean something. Say it like every word is precious because it is. Say it like language is a gift because it is. Say it like you mean it, because words are bridges and bridges connect us. And connection is everything, everything that makes us human, everything that makes life worth living, everything that stands between us and the silence. You wake up the next morning and the world feels different. Not dramatically, not obviously, but something has shifted. You make coffee, you check your phone, the messages are still there, the notifications, the endless stream of words, but you see them differently now. Each one is an attempt, someone reaching out, someone hoping to be heard. Even the angry ones, even the confused ones, even the meaningless ones, they're all just people trying to talk, trying to connect, trying to matter. You respond to a message you've been avoiding. Not with the perfect words, just with honest ones. You tell someone you've been thinking about them, that you miss them, that you're sorry for the distance. The words feel clumsy, inadequate, but you send them anyway, because clumsy words are better than perfect silence. A few minutes later, your phone buzzes. They respond. They've been thinking about you too. They miss you too. The distance wasn't just yours, it was shared. And now, through nothing but a few typed words, it's a little bit smaller. You go through your day. You talk to the barista, not just your order. You ask how they're doing. They look surprised. Then they smile. They tell you about their morning, about their cat who knocked over a plant, about their sister who's visiting next week. It's nothing profound, just small talk, but it's real. It's human. It's two people using language the way it was meant to be used, to connect, to see each other, to acknowledge that we're both here, both alive, both trying to navigate this strange world. At work, you have a meeting. Usually you stay quiet, let others talk, but today you speak up. You share an idea. It's not perfect. It's half-formed, but you say it anyway. Someone builds on it, someone else refines it. Together, you create something none of you could have created alone. That's what language does. It lets us think collectively. It turns individual minds into something greater. During lunch, you call your mother. You haven't talked in weeks. The conversation starts awkward, stilted, but you push through. You ask about her garden, about her book club, about the neighbour who always parks too close to her driveway. She tells you, her voice softens. She asks about you, really asks. Not just the obligatory, how are you, but deeper questions. What are you reading? What made you laugh this week? What keeps you up at night? You answer honestly, and in that honesty, in that willingness to be vulnerable through language, something repairs, some distance closes. You're reminded that this person, this voice on the phone, is where you first learned to talk, where you first learned that words could mean I love you and you're safe and I'm here. That evening, you attend a poetry reading. You've never been to one before, but something pulled you there. The room is small, intimate. People take turns reading. Some are good, some aren't. But all of them are brave. They're standing up and sharing words they wrote when they were alone. They're making the private public, the internal external. One person reads about grief, about losing their father. Their voice cracks. They pause. The room is silent, supportive. They continue. When they finish, no one claps right away. The words need a moment to settle, to be absorbed, then applause, gentle, reverent. You realize you're crying, not because the poem was perfect, because it was true, because someone used words to name something you felt but couldn't express. You go home that night and you write, not for anyone else, just for you. You write about the day, about the barista and the meeting and the phone call and the poetry reading. You write about language, about how we're all just making sounds and hoping they land somewhere soft. You write about loneliness and connection and the strange miracle of being alive at the same time as billions of other people who are also trying to talk. Your writing isn't good. It's messy and meandering, but it's yours. And in writing it, you understand yourself a little better. The weeks pass. You keep trying, keep talking, keep listening. Some conversations go well, others fail spectacularly. You misunderstand someone, they misunderstand you. You hurt feelings without meaning to. You get hurt, but you keep trying because the alternative is silence. And silence, you've learned, is worse than imperfect connection. You start to notice patterns. When you listen first, conversations go better. When you ask questions instead of making statements, people open up. When you admit you don't know something, others feel safe admitting it too. When you say, "I'm sorry," or "I was wrong," or "I don't understand," the walls come down. Language works best when it's humble, when it's curious, when it's willing to be wrong in pursuit of truth. You join a book club, a real one, not online, in person. Once a month, a dozen strangers gather in someone's living room to talk about a book. At first, it's uncomfortable. You don't know anyone. You're not sure what to say. But slowly, over months, something builds. You learn people's names, their reading habits, their opinions. You disagree sometimes, but the disagreements are respectful, curious. You're not trying to win. You're trying to understand. How does this person see the world? What in their experience led them to this interpretation? The book is just an excuse. What you're really doing is talking. Really talking, building relationships through language. One night, someone shares that they're going through a divorce. The group goes quiet. Then someone else says, "Me too, last year it was hell, but you get through it." Another person says, "I'm so sorry. Is there anything we can do?" The person who's divorcing starts crying, says, This is what you can do. Just listen, just care. Just remind me I'm not alone. And everyone does. For the rest of the evening, the book is forgotten. You all just talk. About pain, about resilience, about how life doesn't turn out the way you planned, about how we need each other, especially when things fall apart. You drive home that night feeling grateful. Not for your own life being easy, it isn't, but for the fact that we have language, that we can share our pain, that we don't have to suffer alone. Your grandmother dies. She's 93. It's expected, but it still hurts. At the funeral, people take turns speaking, sharing memories. Your uncle tells a story about her teaching him to bake bread. Your cousin talks about her garden. Your father, stoic as always, breaks down halfway through his speech. Can't finish. Just stands there crying. Your aunt walks up and puts her arm around him, finishes his story for him. You realise this is what language does at its best. It carries our grief. It shares our love. It makes sure people are remembered. Your grandmother lived in a time when letters were the main form of long-distance communication. You have boxes of them, her handwriting, her words, jokes she made, worries she expressed, love she declared. She's gone now. But her words remain. And in those words, she's still here, still talking, still reaching across the distance. You start writing letters, real ones, on paper to people you love. You don't do it often, maybe once a month. But when you do, you take time. You choose words carefully. You tell people what they mean to you, why you're grateful for them, what memories you cherish. Some people write back, others call surprised and touched. One friend frames your letter, hangs it on their wall, says it came on a day they needed it, that they reread it when things are hard. You had no idea. You were just trying to say something true. But that's the thing about language. You never know how it will land, what it will mean to someone else. All you can do is be honest, be kind, be brave enough to say what you feel. Years pass. You watch language continue to evolve. New words are invented. Selfie, podcast, live stream, doom scrolling. Each one a response to new experiences, new technologies, new ways of being human. Some people complain that language is degrading, that kids these days don't know how to communicate. But you're not so sure. They're just communicating differently, through memes and GIFs and abbreviations, through emojis that convey emotion without words. Language has always changed, always adapted. That's what makes it alive. You become a parent, and suddenly you're back at the beginning, teaching someone to talk. You watch your child make their first sounds, random babbling. then gradually, purposeful noises. They point at something and make a sound. You respond. They learn. Water, dog, mama, dada. Each word a small miracle. You remember those first humans struggling to make meaning, and you realize you're repeating their process. Every parent does. Every child reinvents language from scratch, learns that sounds mean things, that communication is possible, that they're not alone. Your child asks why, constantly. Why is the sky blue? Why do we sleep? Why do people die? You answer as best you can, but often you don't know, and you say so. I don't know, let's find out together. You read books, you watch videos, you learn alongside them. Language has given you this: the ability to pass knowledge forward, to stand on the shoulders of everyone who came before. Your child will know things you never knew, and they'll teach their children things you can't imagine. That's the gift. That's the inheritance. You grow older. Your hearing starts to fade. Conversations become harder. You miss words. Ask people to repeat themselves. It's frustrating, isolating. You think about your ancestors, about how hard they fought to be heard. And you fight too. You get hearing aids, you learn to read lips, you adapt, because giving up on language means giving up on connection, and you're not ready for that. Not yet. You attend a wedding. Two people stand before their community and make promises. Through language, they could just love each other quietly, but they speak it aloud, in front of everyone, making private feeling public, making intention declaration. The words are old, traditional, but they still work, still move people to tears, because some things language does well never get old. I love you. I choose you. I promise to stay. Simple words, infinite meaning. You retire. Suddenly you have time. You volunteer at a literacy program, teaching adults to read. Many are immigrants. They speak other languages, but they're learning English. You watch them struggle with pronunciation, with irregular spelling, with idioms that make no sense. It's raining cats and dogs. They look at you confused. You laugh together. Language is absurd sometimes, but they persist because they know what language means. It means jobs. It means independence. It means being able to help their kids with homework. It means belonging. One student, an older woman from Vietnam, finally reads a whole book. Her first. She cries, says she never thought she could. But she did. Through patience, through practice, through the fundamental human capacity for language. You hug her. Tell her you're proud, and you are, because you've just witnessed someone gain access to millions of voices, millions of stories. The entire written world just opened up for her. You're old now, really old. You spend more time in the past than the present. Memory becomes unreliable, but language remains. You can still talk, still tell stories. Your grandchildren visit. They ask you about your life. You tell them about growing up, about meeting their grandfather, about mistakes you made, lessons you learned. They listen. Some of it they'll remember, some they won't. But you're doing what humans have always done, passing down wisdom through words, creating continuity across generations. One day, you can't find the right word. It's on the tip of your tongue, but it won't come. This starts happening more. Words you've used your whole life suddenly hide from you. It's terrifying because you know what it means. The bridge is weakening. The tool is wearing out. But you keep trying, keep talking, because as long as you can make sounds that mean something, you're still you, still connected, still here. Your children move you to a care home. You're not happy about it, but you're not capable of living alone anymore. The home is nice enough, clean, safe, but impersonal. You share a room with a stranger. At first you don't talk, just coexist, but gradually, slowly, you start. Small exchanges. How'd you sleep? Nice weather. Did you see that show? The stranger, who you learn is named Margaret, opens up. Tells you about her late husband, her children who don't visit enough, her fear of being forgotten. You tell her about your life too, your regrets, your joys, your own fear. You become friends, not through doing things together. You're both too old for that, but through talking, through sharing, through reminding each other that you're both still here, still human, still worthy of being heard. Margaret dies quietly in her sleep. You're devastated, not because you knew her long, you didn't, but because she was your person, your connection. The funeral is small. Her family seems disconnected, going through motions, so you speak. Tell them who she really was, what she worried about, what she loved, what made her laugh. They look surprised, like they're hearing about her for the first time. Maybe they are. Maybe they stopped really talking to her years ago, stopped really listening. It makes you sad and determined. You call your own children, tell them you love them, tell them specific things you're proud of, things you've never said. They're surprised, touched, it's awkward, but it's real, and real is what matters. You're dying now. You know it. Feel it. You're not afraid exactly, just tired, ready. But there's one thing you want to do. You ask for paper and pen. Your hand shakes. Your writing is barely legible, but you write letters to each of your children, to your grandchildren, telling them what they meant to you, telling them to be kind, to listen, to talk to each other, to not let distance grow, to say I love you often, to forgive, to try. You seal the envelopes, ask the nurse to deliver them after. She promises, cries a little. You smile, words matter. Even these last ones, especially these last ones, your children gather around your bed, they're crying, you're not. You've had a good life, a full life, a life filled with words and stories and connections. You try to speak, to say something profound, some perfect final words, but you can't. The words won't come, so you just look at them, really look, and they understand. Because language isn't just words. It's everything we do to bridge the gap. Every look, every touch, every moment of trying. They hold your hands, you close your eyes, and the last thing you hear is their voices, saying I love you, saying goodbye, saying we're here. And you think, even as you drift away, that this is what it was all for. All the grunts and clicks and words and sentences and stories, all the attempts and failures and successes, all the reaching across the silence, this connection, love, being less alone. And it was worth it. Every word, every conversation, every time you opened your mouth and hoped someone would hear. The last word you think is thank you, not to anyone specific, to everyone, to every human who ever tried to talk, who ever reached out, whoever built a bridge made of sound. Thank you for trying. Thank you for caring. Thank you for not letting us face the silence alone. Good night.